Welcome back to Close Encounters of the Tech Kind. I'm John with WoW Support. We started this podcast to just banter about the technology movements in the world today and where we're going and share our perspectives with each other. We invite you to join us for the ride. Promise to have some insight. We've got some seasoned experts, been in the industry for a couple decades. That's right. I'm dating us. And then we've got Jackson, a college kid. But let's introduce Jackson. Jackson, you're a college kid.
I am a college kid. I'm a real boy. Yeah, I'm working on my bachelor's degree at Brigham Young University in computer engineering. So I'm about halfway through that program.
Just killing it out there. I love it.
Big time.
We got Mike to kind of juxtapose this youth and wet behind the ears with some seasoned experience.
Yeah, definitely. Keeping them in line, right?
Mike, that might have been the smoothest way anyone has gotten called old.
Hey, I'm not going to avoid it forever. So there you go.
Well, and if anybody could be called old, I think I am the one to do that. But I mean, to call people old, not be called old. Okay, call me old. Have fun. What was I saying again? Oh, wait. And then guy who's running the show behind the scenes, he needs no introduction. So, yeah, we'll just skip over that. No, just kidding. Artie's kind of the guy that running the tech behind the show. He's reading the articles for us. He's our flight engineer on this craft of exploration. But yeah, let's get into our stories. We're going to be talking about Linux just got breached in an interesting way. AI has been scanning things. What a fantastic tool AI has become. It's writing code. It's finding issues in code. Let's talk about that. And on the subject of AI, I want to talk about VO3. This just got teased and released to us. For $125 a month right now, you can make a certain number of 8-second video clips, and they are frighteningly cool. And then kind of in other tech news, we've got an ISP is being taken to court for not disconnecting its users at the request of copyright holders. So that's an interesting one. Definitely want to share that. And if we've got time, we'll get into how did we get into now with our experience, what brought us to the table, how did we get to this podcast today. We'll start at the beginning and work our way forwards or backwards. I'm not sure which.
Sideways.
Sideways. Yes. Well, without further ado, Linux. That just got breached. Artie, you've got the article.
I have multiple articles up, but the person that found it is a guy named Sean Heelan. I hope I'm saying that right. And it was I forgot the terminology. 1 second, my brain just reset. No,
and you call me old.
I mean, if the cane fits.
The cane I walk with, or the cane I'm going to beat you with?
They're one and the
what
same.
he discovered was that there was
there, guys. Just go ahead, Artie.
He was using a large language model to look for various things within the code, and he discovered a 0-day vulnerability while he was benchmarking things. And it was found in the Linux kernel. So this is like the very center of any Linux operating system. He did.
We've gone to the core.
Yep. It was a use after free issue in the SMB logoff command. And it's got its CVE up. So far, no rating for the CVE. This was relatively recent, though. So with what this could potentially do, yeah, it's probably going to be 9.8 or higher. My speculation.
Yikes.
Yeah, this one's big, guys. Linux is running a lot of the core infrastructure because Linux is quote unquote unhackable. It's rock solid. You can't get into it because everybody's looking at the open source code. The perspective I want to share with you guys is AI is bringing a whole different perspective. So we're going to get into a whole new generation of software that is written by AI, is scanned by AI. Microsoft just said a third of what they're producing is written by AI now.
I don't know how I feel about that.
Well, considering the dissertations that AI is generating right now with large language, there's going to be some issues.
How long has Microsoft said that they've been writing all of their stuff in AI? Because I think it shows. In some ways. Yeah.
I don't think they announced when they started. I don't think they're going to tell us. But yeah, Microsoft definitely
I don't know why you'd
tried
say
it
that.
sooner than they should.
I don't know how to go with that because I mean it's an opportunity to pick on Microsoft, but in a way I kind of think maybe the way to pick on it is it may improve things.
True.
Maybe I don't know.
I mean,
it
it really can't get much worse than how they've been doing things. So, yeah, I agree.
So you're saying
reminds
that
me of it reminds me of a tagline I saw, a rip off of the Apple Think Different. Somebody put up a Microsoft logo that said "Crash Different."
every time. Oh man, that's funny though. Well, so I mean, I think we talked about this like a long time ago, like maybe even last year, where it was like, how AI was kind of bringing this new, kind of like you're saying, new perspective of debugging code, but also, it can be used for malicious reasons for um, creating malware or, any sort of those things. But it was also doing a great job at finding malware. And so,
Yeah,
but I think we kind of forgot about that for a while. So it's kind of interesting to see this new thing pop up, and that's a pretty big deal if it's finding big vulnerabilities like this in the Linux kernel. And I guess my other question on that would be, has there been a fix already for this or not?
There is a fix available for this.
oh, cool.
Yeah.
Last I read it didn't have one.
So, I haven't read
yeah,
far
the fix
down
is-
to get to the fix part, but at the very beginning, he's saying the vulnerability found is CVE 2025-37899, and then immediately after, fix here. And this is the researcher that found it. But it's interesting how he found it. He basically told the large language model to look for use after free vulnerabilities and gave it a brief high-level overview of what the KSMBD is, its architecture, and what its threat model is. And he guided it not to report false positives and to favor not reporting any bugs over reporting false positives. So he ran a bunch of tests using the large language model as the debugging program. And, like all large language models, he had to basically hold its hand and say, this is where you're going. This is what we're looking for. No. This is what we're actually looking for. No. This is what we're looking for. And anybody that's interacted with, like ChatGPT or Llama or anything like that knows what I'm talking about.
And that's where I've got some hope in humanity still, is we still have to hold AI's hand to find the most rudimentary of things. This isn't rudimentary, but even the most basic of things. You have to nurture, you have to nudge, sometimes use a crowbar. You have to get it in the direction you want it. And then it does something brilliant. So it still requires humans to do what humans do. It's just removing the rigor that's necessary for, the dotting the I's and crossing the T's.
And that's a different existential conversation.
to me, it sounds like that Sean here had. I mean, I don't know much about him. I haven't read his report or his background or anything, but I get the feeling from what you're saying, Artie, is that he already has some level of knowledge with this Samba module or whatever. That he kind of, like you say, he knew what to basically look for, but without analyzing the code himself, he's trying to teach the AI to do it.
Mhm.
And
That's what it sounds like.
yeah, so I'm just trying to think of the implications of, because if a white hat guy can use it, a black hat guy can use it too, right?
Oh,
But
definitely.
it tells me that the black hat guy is going to have a pretty good level of knowledge to know how to operate the AI or to get the AI to do what he wants. Now, of course, as we keep progressing with AI, I mean, I like to think that it's getting better and better, not worse and worse. But in that respect, it's going to become easier for somebody to do something malicious with AI to find these vulnerabilities before. It's almost like a race of who can use AI the fastest to find the vulnerabilities first and patch them before, the bad guys do.
Well, and I think of it more like you've seen Lockpicking Lawyer, right?
Hmm.
Mhm.
Like half the internet's seen Lockpicking Lawyer. He puts out 2 to 5 minute videos, shows the vulnerabilities and padlocks and combination locks. his his take is the industry has security through obscurity. If you don't know how it works, it's secure. But a lot of his work has brought forward vulnerabilities in the way these things are put together, the way the padlocks are put together. We're going to see a similar kind of exposure on how weak and incapable our software is. And it's just going to be the industry trying to keep up and plug the holes as they're found. Just like you say, Mike, it's going to be an arms race. Is it the good guys or the bad guys?
Yeah, and on that same note, and I think what makes AI so powerful is the way that it's able to consume information a lot faster than the human can. I'm sure if someone sat there, read through all that code, and had a good understanding of what's going on, they'd be able to point that out and say, "Hey, here's an issue." But I mean, getting like almost existential in a way, like humans, the way we consume information is slow because the way we transfer information is by text, and you have to read it. If you could just telekinesis all the information to someone's head, holy cow, that'd be so cool. And you could transfer ideas, information so much faster. But because we have that limitation, that's where large language model kind of bridges that gap, and it's pretty fun. It's pretty fun to see. Working in a Linux kernel myself, not too long ago, I get a freaking 200 lines of errors in something that I was trying to do, and I was like, oh my gosh! I was like, instead of reading that, I can throw it into a large language model, and it can give me the bullet points. Hey, here's what you need to do to fix it. And that's where it's cool to see it. And so the more information that you give it, kind of like what you guys were just talking about, you can't be incompetent. You have to know what you're doing in order to teach the language model what you want from it. Um, but as long as you can do that, it can be a super huge propellant of productivity.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
do a little side thing right here. Um, we're going to be talking about some legal things later on, but there's one that came up with ChatGPT. There was large language. I don't remember which large language model it was. I think it's GPT, but a court ordered that they have to retain all of the inputs from users
And outputs.
for the foreseeable future, and all of the outputs from those as well. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that was frightening. I'm glad you brought that up.
it's going to be basically, if you're using a large language model for anything, it's going to be documenting everything that you put into it, at least until this
So
court case gets settled.
so that was New York Times versus ChatGPT. They were saying that
That's right.
GPT was plagiarizing all of their content and spitting it out with not enough manipulation to be a derivative work. It was a direct plagiarizing copy.
And
I
not
Now,
mean,
enough citation.
in
Because
in yeah,
I've never known ChatGPT to like give me an answer and say, "Oh, by the way, you can find references for this at blah 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 blah."
well, and that's one of the guardrails they put on there. I don't know if it's direct to the issue, but somebody showed behind the scenes. New York Times was really crafting the prompt to generate the exact output. Now, that's the alleged side of things. I don't know. I wasn't there that day. But what is frightening is the court has said, never mind user agreements, privacy concerns, GDPR, European laws. Never mind all that. You need to save 100% of all personally identifiable information that the system generates. You need to save all of our chats and submit it to the court for review. It's
That's ridiculous.
billions of lines of text. Court's just going to use GPT to read it anyways.
It's not
How
the
much you know
billions of
about half
lines
of
to
the
read. It's the terabytes of information that are going to be saved because of this.
And
and
because
how
of all
much
the
you want to?
regulatory. Go ahead.
I was gonna say how much you want to bet that New York Times is half of their newest articles are written using GPT anyway. So I'd bet you a lot of that content is generated by GPT, and they're like, "Well, they're plagiarizing." GPT's like, "I wrote it."
Wouldn't that be hilarious? That
I,
the logs show
It's
that the New
like
York Times is doing that?
it was mine to start with. Good grief. If you steal something back that was stolen from you, then did you really steal it? Like, I don't know. Getting back to what Jackson was saying, the ability for, I mean, just a computer operates at many thousands, trillions of cycles per unit of time that's able to process this stuff. And, I actually used this recently that I was having on a particular server some errors. I could see that there were the errors, but the list was just so long. It's like, I can't read through this and try to pick it out. And so then I was like, well, let's just dump it into Chat GPT. And it did require some intelligence on my part. Like, I could have taken the entire log file and dumped it in. And yeah, after amount of time, I probably would have gotten the same result. But I knew, at least from the patterns I was seeing, like, I need to focus in on these lines right here. So I took out just the lines I really wanted to look at and say, chat, what's going on here? And it was able to give me some reasonable answers and everything. Now the flip side is, last night I'm helping my son with his homework, and we're using Chat GPT to instruct us how to build a certain type of a spreadsheet. Where's like, how would you build this in Excel? And it gave us some instructions, but then as we followed the instructions and put it in, we realized that Chat got it wrong. Because in the first step, it established some references, says, okay, the starting payment's going to be here, and there's going to be an interest rate that's going to be placed in this cell, and there's going to be, in certain cells. But then when it went to the next step to reference those cells, it got the references completely wrong. And like, I think what it assumed is it assumed that there was like a header row then at that point, and so everything was shifted down by one row. And so it's just like little things like that where there's things that are so close, and we might even get into this later, that it's so close, but yet it makes such the simplest mistakes as well, that it's just
Mhm.
like, I still
And
have to
that's
go in and be the human and fix this.
Last thing I'll say about this, and then we can move on to wherever you'd like, John. But
oh no.
I think this is why it's so important in our school systems that, especially in, I mean, the easiest example is like in mathematics, right? Why do we have to learn how to differentiate or integrate by hand or do, whatever, find a sum by hand if we can just plug it into a calculator and have it do it. It's because if you don't understand the overarching idea and how it works and what's going on, then when it doesn't work, you've got no recourse. You have nothing you can do. And so that is why I'm personally a huge proponent of you have to understand the workings behind. Don't just know how to, move numbers around and do a math problem, but you have to understand why it does what it does, why it works. And then that's when you become, super useful. Nowadays, with all the tools that we have, with all these calculators and all of these AI tools, large language models, that's how you empower yourself to then not spend the time doing the menial things, and you can instead guide a tool to do what you want.
That's a good point, but I still want to play Doom on my Texas Instruments calculator.
Hey, I didn't say you
Right.
couldn't. I say go for it. Please.
No, it's points well taken there, Jackson. It's if we don't know and we just leave it up to the computer. Well, let's I don't know how to put hope on the other side of that. All I could say is everybody that's listening, please, we'd love to know what your thoughts are on what can humanity do to get ahead of this before the computers start making decisions for everybody, or even half of everybody. Some people just want decisions made for them. I'd rather not see a computer make the decisions for us, but
How long
we're
until
going there.
chat starts telling you how to vote?
Well, I mean, there's an argument that it's influencing us now,
Yeah.
but we could talk hours on this. I definitely want to talk about our hot topic. Let's jump over to this. Google's VO3 just released. For $125 a month, you can get a number of credits. Probably going to change now that it's getting popular. You can make an 8-second video. I shared with shared with you guys some of what was there before this podcast. I want to get your hot mic talk on this. Just what is your initial thoughts, Jackson, on watching the street interviews, person talking, generated purely from a prompt? You put in a prompt, and it builds a whole lifelike video. I wish we could play it here, but
Yeah,
put
maybe
links.
in post we can do something there, but yeah,
We'll
that
fix it in
was
post.
the fix it in post. The street interviews was weird, and I didn't finish watching. I just, I saw a few of those clips, and I think it was even worse because I was only half paying attention. I had something else going on, but I had it on. I was glancing over and watching some of them. Like that was super weird because halfway through I forgot, like, oh yeah, this is all AI generated. Like it felt real, and like the intonation of people's voices and all that. Yeah, I mean, it was freaking me out a little bit. But then if I sat there and stared at it and watched it and was like, okay, this is AI, and I was like, okay, yeah, obviously I see, the artifacts, and I see the kind of feel that AI generated images have. But overall, that was freaky.
It's crazy how just a simple couple lines of text can lead to a video of that quality. Now, again, we can't show it on the podcast unless we fix it in post. Side note, out at NAB, I used to go to that every year. Saw a T-shirt that was hilarious. It's for the editors. It says "Fix it in post yourself." But
I will put links to the videos in the description.
That's a great way
that
to do
works.
it.
That way
Yeah,
we don't
because
get dinged.
Mike, what was your? That's even better, Artie. You saw the videos.
I was watching the one about the emotional, like the test for different emotions, the different emotional responses. And
The Mondays.
now from a high level, just looking, it was very well done. Like you look at generally the facial expressions were correct for the emotion being portrayed. The voice the intensity of the voice, the tone of voice, all of that was spot on for the different emotions being displayed. But like I said, what gets me are the simple but obvious details. And so on some of these, for whatever reason, the AI decided to put subtitles in. Okay. Now it's already generated the speech, and the speech is correct, but you look at the subtitles and the sounds are kind of like there, but they're like totally misspelled word. Like, you know what you put in there because you made the speech for it. Why don't you just put the text version of that or your subtitle? Like, why are you trying to imagine the subtitle for speech that you've already generated? That's what it feels like it's doing. And it's just
It's
little things like that. That's just like, it's so close and yet so
well,
far away, you know?
you're thinking about it as one brain is looking at the product.
And yeah, and that's the thing is that
There's
it's
5 or
not.
6 engines,
Yeah.
and they don't talk together. They just
Yeah.
blend together in one product.
Hey, I have a question.
It's
Does it do anything other than English?
But that's
know.
kind of the other thing I was thinking of too, Artie, is that, okay, so it's separate engines. Okay, so something generated the audio, and listening to my ear, the audio sounded clear enough. And I have worked with text to speech and speech to text before, that there's some really good processors out there that can take speech and turn it into text. Like, where's the accuracy if it's just going to feed an audio file back into a processor to say generate subtitle text for this? How does it still like miss the mark? Like, I don't know. Like, there's just, and those are probably the things that the programmers who write these AIs, those are probably the things they're looking at. It's like, how are we going to jump through this hurdle? Like, it's so close. Like, what is it we need to teach it to be able to overcome that?
And
I
that's
was
the trillion-dollar question. First one to
I was
get there gets $1 trillion.
Right.
I was gonna say this is cracking me up as I thought about when we were talking about the captions being all wrong. I pulled it up again just to pull up an example, and there's this one where all the girl says is "oh yeah," and the captions put "oh yak" with a K at the end.
Yeah,
So
like, it's like, there's no K there. Like,
well,
what?
and then immediately my mind went to that meme with like the 3-headed dragon, and like 2 of them are normal, one of them's like all goofy, like does it belong? And, like that is exactly what we're looking at. We have the audio and the visuals are there, and then the captions is just an afterthought. So
He's the black
uh,
sheep of the family, right?
yeah, no, but anyway, that's pretty funny. But
I mean, let's talk. We've been at this for 2 years. Like, AI got released a couple years ago. We were playing with it at the office. I still remember the Tyrannosaurus Rex, Santa Claus. In some reason, the prompt generated a lawn chair running into the ocean. Like,
Yeah.
that was hilarious.
Yeah.
that's another
We'll
one
make
we
t-shirts
should
of
put
that
up in
someday.
post.
Yeah, we should make t-shirts out of that. I think that would
Yeah,
be
that'd be awesome.
just great.
Make ugly sweaters out of it for the Christmas ugly sweater competition, you know? Which
Of
that was
pirates.
another prompt that we did. That was fun too.
That was great. Yeah, it's maybe on our webpage we could do like AI, the wall of not shame, but the wall of oops.
Yeah, that'd
The
be
wall of
funny.
AI. How about that?
So one thing that comes to mind with this is deepfakes.
Yeah.
Ooh.
With how realistic and how, I mean, if you know what you're looking at, if you know like the tells, you can tell that these things are definitely AI generated. There's just certain things about
But it's
physics, there's certain things about light, there's certain things about foreground, background being like there's no gradation like you would see with a regular lens. There's anyways, there are tells that are there. But with the deepfakes, it makes me wonder how useful this tool is going to be, or if it's going to be shackled, because I know that there are a lot of countries out there that have, I mean, even in the US, they passed something recently regarding deepfake type image generation to
And well, they
basically,
should.
yeah. No, I'm not saying they
No, they
shouldn't. I'm just pointing out that this tool might be um, DOA when it's like actively put out there. If
it's not going to be DOA. You're going to have all of Hollywood. Let me put. I didn't come up with this idea. I just don't want to take credit for it. But if you take all those failed scripts because the budget would be too high, let's say you've got a script for Santa riding a Tyrannosaurus with chasing lawn chairs, but the budget is $150 million. We don't have that. We're not going to do that. We're just not going to recoup that. If we only spent, say, $500,000 on an AI team to print that movie out and publish it on YouTube, we could probably get that bankroll back.
so, basically, it's going to be the movies that are the bad, like Brazilian ripoffs of Disney films, but with higher production quality.
They'll be much higher quality. I mean, if it's only been 2 years and we're getting to the point where it's better than your bad TikTok videos, it's gonna be almost indistinguishable 2 years from now. I mean, we're watching a place where video evidence won't be submitted to court and believed anymore. Your dash cam won't mean anything because you could generate your own dash cams.
Yeah. What is this world we live in now? You're gonna have to
enjoy it while we got it. I mean, that's like, we live in a world right now where we can believe what we see, but the skeptics are getting, the clues are getting harder to find.
Well, I wonder if this will then push. No, this is totally all speculation, but this would be cool if now video gets pushed into and imaging gets pushed into a new realm where instead of just having a video, you now also have to have like a LiDAR point cloud map, and then you're basically creating like a 3D video sort of, but you're adding information that, now AI can't probably generate an accurate point cloud of whatever you're looking at. So that would be interesting to see if video gets that far. But
Well,
I
and
mean, if you
I'd say
can't,
no matter what rigor you put behind it, AI could fake it.
yeah, I
For
mean,
just
it'll
a
get
reason of
there.
time.
You're gonna have to stay ahead of it though.
For some reason, I see a new generation of experts that are going to be like bite mark experts that, there's very little validity to what they're saying, but they're going to come off as being experts in being able to tell what is AI and what isn't. And you're going to get a lot of evidence thrown out because this expert is saying this is AI when it's an actual video.
Why did your brain go to bite mark?
I've watched many, many things in my lifetime, and one of them that comes up as um, like junk science basically is like bite marks, lie detectors, um, and it was just the first one that came to mind.
Okay, I'm just curious. Like, are you mental space for like wanting to bite one of us, or?
No,
No.
Okay, good.
it's it was the first thing that came to mind when it came to junk science that is still approved and used in courts.
Okay, got you. I'll go for that. Well, not bringing it in courts, but that's sorry. I mean, it's for those of you who don't know, we're brothers, so I got to poke fun at him. But
That's my cross to bear.
good times.
On one hand, I see an advantage for all this AI movie making to be helpful to the industry. Like, we just watched the Star Wars trilogy, the 4, 5, and 6 trilogy over the weekend with our kids because our kids, not all of our kids had seen the original 3, and so we wanted to make sure they were exposed to that and they could be, caught up on the story and know what was going on and everything.
You're a good dad, Mike.
And it's the version that it's been after the additional special effects have been added to it. And so we were making this comment that the the versions that my wife and I grew up on with the original special effects we had no problem with those special effects. Like, I never as a kid looked at that and thought, "Oh, that's so cheesy. They just took a, you know, it's a paper airplane on a string that they just lit with a lighter, or something like that." It was not cheesy special effects. I mean, there was a lot of time, effort, and thought and planning and everything that went into those special effects way back in the 1970s when the first movie was made. And it looked fantastic to capture the imagination and say, yeah, that's an X-wing fighter diving in towards the Death Star and doing whatever happens in the movie. And so now we have these additional special effects that were generated with 3D models in a computer and rendered out and put onto the film and merged together and everything. Now AI would just be able to say, let's just create the whole scene right from the computer and everything. The flip side of that is that you look at a lot of the stunts that maybe were involved in that instead of having to put somebody's life on the line and say, okay, you're going to swing from this 100-foot building and do this crazy stunt or whatever. And we hear about actors getting hurt, stunt people getting hurt, somebody dies on set because a stunt went wrong. And that has happened in movie productions. The safety factor now is not an issue because we're all going to do it on the computer. So I can see how people are going to justify this, like saying we need this technology to keep people safe and still produce the high-end movies and entertainment that people are looking for.
I
But I
think it's
also
going to be
agree that there's going to have to be some kind of a balance to say, what can the technology be used for? What can't it be used for? And how are we going to be able to put some kind of a tell in there? I mean, is there going to be, looking from a legal standpoint, are we going to have to require some kind of legal thing that any type of AI that produces this thing puts some kind of a signature to it to say that this was produced by AI, you know?
well, and if we're talking about deepfakes and ripping off people likeness, if you take a Morgan Freeman and you put him in there, you take Mark Hamill, you put him in there, you take
Mhm.
not Morgan Freeman, he wasn't in Star Wars, my bad, but you take any of those people, you should pay them royalties, or you got to get permission from them to put their likeness in there.
And that's
There's
already an
lots of
issue right now.
yeah, but there's 8 billion people on the planet.
Mhm.
Are you sure the generated face is really unique?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, who's
Or
it
the
getting
voice.
based off of, right?
So let's take a different approach on this, guys. Where's it going? Where is this train going? Where is this AI engine gonna go?
I have one more thing, and I think it's along those lines, but it might be, not quite what you're looking for. But I was just thinking about this as well. I'm a huge music guy. I listen to music all day long, all the time. And there is just something different about the music made in the early 2000s and in the 90s. I think 2000s might be too far. The 90s and the 80s, there is a different feel to it because it's real instruments, real musicians, all playing.
Mhm.
There's a human element to it. It is
Yeah.
imperfect, but that is what makes it good.
Yep.
And then you move into now mid 2000s and 2010s, 2020, and now modern music. It is just not the same for me. I still enjoy it. I still, listen to it, of course. But there is something different about a human performing, whether it's music or acting. And then, so I think if we move into this new industry of movie making or filmmaking, where you're now removing removing the human and replacing it with a computer generated sound or face, I think it's going to have that same effect that music has on me, where it's just like it's just missing something, and it's not the same. It doesn't feel like a masterpiece.
I think we're gonna see this as just another tool in the toolbox. Like some creators are gonna go all in and just do it. And we've seen some great stuff like Toy Story. That was cool. CG didn't go away, but just because there was CG didn't mean Nightmare Before Christmas doing claymation wasn't an option. Wallace and Gromit, that's pure claymation. You know, it's an art form, it's an expression. I think this is just going to be another tool, and once the glamour wears off, people are going to say, okay, yeah, that's great. Can we watch the real Mark Hamill instead of the CG version of Mark Hamill?
Okay. Excuse me.
That's the question, is that how are we even going to know the difference at some point?
Right.
So with what Jackson just brought up, I'm going to go off on a wild tangent that none of you probably know. There's a series called Macross Plus. One of the characters in it is specifically an AI pop star, basically, that turns evil and starts taking things over. And yeah, it's like
Just unplug them.
it just kind of everything culminates
Come on.
together, and we're going to have basically Hal from 2001,
2001. Yeah.
but a pop star that's evil and actually has weapons.
If Hal was a pop star and had weapons. Nice.
Hatsune
That's
Miku in a fighter jet.
You know, Jackson, what you brought up about music, there's actually a YouTube channel that I follow that he gets into that there is more and more computer processing going on with especially with what people are sharing on YouTube and other social media, because
Mhm.
everybody wants to look and sound the absolute best. And so
Yeah.
they have to be absolute pitch perfect and right on
and the
line,
loudest.
yeah, whatever. And um it's a big concern for him too, because it's not just getting into that, but it seems to be bleeding over into things like the talent show industry, um, and other things like that. So it's, I don't know, it's getting into so much of our lives, so especially on the entertainment industry, just every aspect of the entertainment industry, because they want to look the best, be the best, sound the best, whatever.
Right.
You know,
And it's
that brings up something that if you look at magazines going back, we used airbrush technology retouching the photos of, for advertisings, for covers. You look at the cover of a magazine, that is not how that person actually looks. Doesn't matter what
Right.
magazine cover you're looking at. And this is just, making it more on the fly instead of having to spend hours doing it.
Yeah, Cindy Crawford said she wished she looked like Cindy Crawford. True
Yeah,
quote.
good quote. That's right.
so yeah, it's just and the thing is, not everyone knows, right? I can tell the difference because I play instruments and I listen to a lot of music, and so I know I can hear the difference. It's very distinct. But for someone who's maybe not that involved, to them, there's not they may not even know, and they may not care.
Yeah.
And it's kind of disappointing when you realize that people who spend hours upon hours of their life, training a skill or a talent, and it's no longer really almost as valuable or appreciated as much as it really should be, with the
Mhm.
talent that people have in their singing ability or their ability to play an instrument, or music composition even. And now we just have, it's kind of like the thing where, if everyone's super, no one is. And I think that's
Yeah.
kind of where it's moving things, and I don't like that, because I really like to appreciate um, someone who spends the time to compose and to perform. But that's the
Yeah,
last I'll say of that.
Well,
But
yeah,
and that
that's exactly. I think it's
just a thought.
people. I think there's a large number of people that just don't care.
yeah,
But that, like, going back to the music thing with the channel that I follow, that is his point, is that he believes that people need to understand what they are listening to when they listen to certain recordings of music. That it
Well, and
sounds so amazing and good. And he's like, and he goes with like you're pointing out, like music, kind of like the early 2000s and before that, that it had a more natural feel. He's like, go listen to some of the top artists of back then, and you can even put it through analysis, and you will see that even the analysis will show they were not pitch perfect every single note or anything like that. And that to some extent, even that the fact that they're not pitch perfect gives the song the character and the feel and the tone and the whatever that it
Mhm.
has.
Yeah,
But
that's so. I the thought I want to offer you guys is, Mike, you and I grew up with ABC, CBS, NBC.
with
Those were the
commercials,
TV channels.
yeah,
It was one stream to get your content to the consciousness of America. Other channels spun up slowly, but we had a really rigorous single channel, single source of everything. It was, Time magazine. It was National Geographic. It was, you could name the top publications,
yep,
I
record
miss seeing
labels,
those.
right? We had just a certain number of channels, and to make it big, you get in that channel, and now you're big.
hmm
YouTube, how many millions of channels are there now?
Yes.
There are so many directions media is
and
coming
it's
at us.
all on
No,
demand. So
and
it
no,
doesn't
what?
even matter if I missed it the first time. Like
Well,
I
and
can just,
what I'm saying is, you're never going to be as big as like Beyonce. She's not selling out concerts anymore because she's not reaching the audience because there's so much competition in the feeds. She can't advertise that. This was a thing I saw. It was on the internet. Must be true. I saw it a little bit ago, but if you can't sell out because your fans aren't seeing your music because there's so much competition for their eyeballs,
yeah.
we're in a different world.
But that's kind of the thing why I was making too is that like back when it was just the 3 public broadcast channels, you know, if I didn't watch Dukes of Hazzard that night because I was watching something else, I had to wait for that episode to be put on summertime reruns. Like I
Yep.
missed it. And we had a rating system that, people who participate in ratings, it's like, what are you watching tonight at 7 o'clock, 8 Central or whatever.
Did
And
Nielsen family get paid to watch TV?
yeah, something like that. I'd heard of it and I was like, man, I want to be one of those. Um,
Being a Nielsen family was fun.
but that's just it, is that Beyonce, like, I don't know how it works now. I don't know how to compare that because it seems to me like if I'm interested in Beyonce, well then I'll watch it when I feel like I want to watch Beyonce. But if I want to watch Taylor Swift, I'll watch Taylor Swift when I feel like I want to watch Taylor Swift. And it's not going anywhere. Once it's on the internet, it's there forever, right? I mean,
Yeah.
basically. So it's not like I feel like I'm missing it. It's just it's redirected for that moment of time. And so
Well, that's kind of what I'm saying is
yeah,
we're entering a different paradigm.
yeah,
The whole world has shifted, Jackson. You didn't see it the way it was before because you're part of the generation that has all these options ready to go. We had a grown up time of this is what everybody knew because this is all that was available to us.
back then there was a storage media company, mostly audio cassettes in relation to this particular tagline. I don't know if you'll know it. Is it real or is it Memorex? And John knows
Never heard of
exactly
that.
what I'm talking about
I
because
love.
back then that meant something. Like
I got the
the
poster.
quality of the audio tape recorded so well that you wouldn't be able to tell the difference as if you were in a live performance or if you were standing in your home theater, or whatever, listening to it.
Mike, you remember the commercial with the guy sitting down in his chair, speakers in front of him, and the wind is just blowing by? I've
Hmm
got that poster.
That poster was iconic for that time of that era. Yeah, it was. I remember that.
I mean, quintessential 80s right there. That was
Yeah,
great. And to think the cassettes was the standard.
right. I
I
mean, we look
mean,
at that now, it's like,
magnetic tape is still the best storage media that we've got, the longest lasting.
Yeah, it wasn't the highest quality back then, though.
Oh, it wasn't the
no.
highest quality back then, but now it'll last, at least twice as long as, a hard drive or 3 times as long as a solid state if you are taking care of it properly. Storing
Yeah,
it
that's the
properly.
trick.
The
A lot of
most
cassettes.
interaction I've had with cassettes was in my '99 Honda Accord many years ago when I had the cassette to aux and you had to shove your finger in there and jiggle it around to get it to read right. But once it did, sounded great.
I saw one of
And
those
he
cassette
talks about that
adapters.
99 Accord like it was already an old beat up thing. I mean, good grief.
I saw a cassette adapter that had Bluetooth built in and a
That's
generator
impressive.
off of the spindle.
Wow, that's crazy.
That's
Self-contained, no batteries.
that's really cool.
That's
Wow.
thinking outside the box.
That's
That is
brilliant.
crazy cool. Because you
Okay.
get better quality, I think, from that than you would. Because I mean, nowadays they have the little radio transmitters you can just plug into your car.
Yeah, those
Those
things
do
we'll
are
go-
nice until you realize that you're picking up everybody else around you that is trying to use one of those.
I know sometimes you drive by somebody, you're like, oh, wait, I gotta listen to some different music today.
Oh,
That's
I
why
need
you
to go
solder on a bigger you
half a
solder on a bigger
frequency
antenna.
adjustment there. Yeah.
Bigger antenna, your signal wins.
Mo
Hook it
power.
up to a car battery as the power supply for it, like directly to that, so you've got a larger amplifier. So instead
All
of like the
600 amps.
10 feet around
Doesn't
you,
work
you've got
that way.
like 100 feet around you.
Then I
Okay,
think you
so
start
I'll
breaking
nerd out on you just
FCC
one
regulations.
further.
Yeah.
I'll nerd out on you one further, Jackson. You had a cassette player. My first car had an 8-track player.
An 8-track. Holy cow.
That's pretty amazing.
We had a cassette to 8-track adapter.
I never had a car with an 8-track. I had a friend that had a car with an 8-track.
That's awesome.
That was crazy. I mean, the technology has just changed a lot, but also
What
the technology hasn't changed much. It's
what
still
is an
magnetic
8-track?
waves.
Is it like what? How do you even write to it?
It's
Like
an
what is it
audio
stored
tape.
on? It's a tape.
It's
Yeah.
a single spindle that feeds from the center to the front of the cartridge and then spools back on the outside edge. As the as the reel pays out, the pulls from the center, everything compacts down in and then goes to that center piece where it pulls out. As such, if the tape gets eaten, the tape is destroyed.
Mhm.
There's no spooling it back in.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
Other than that, it's great.
one thing that was nice
So
about
8-track
it is that you also had on many of them 4 tracks on it.
Yeah, so you know how you flip over a cassette, side A, side B? 8-track had 4 sides. So 2 stereo channels, and it's track 1, track 2, track 3, track 4. And you could select between the 2, so you could record 3 songs per track. And if you don't like that one, hit the button, and it switches to track 2, and it's now playing the next songs on the tape.
Nice.
No fast forward or rewind though.
No, I had to fast forward.
Oh,
That's what eats tapes. Just-
gotcha.
And now you know.
And then
I
there was
actually
the
had
Go
I had
ahead.
an 8-track recorder for a while. I could record my own 8-tracks.
and then there was the failed invention of the in-car record player.
Oh yeah, that'll
That
do
one
great
worked.
once you go over a bump.
Yep.
Huh. I could see with the laser pickups you got nowadays.
Oh, I've looked at laser record players. They are not cheap. Like
Nope.
there's only one company that is trusted for that, and it's like 15,000 for one of them. That's like the cheapest model that they've got.
I'll take
That's
2.
a bit out of my price range.
Yeah, I mean it would be good because it doesn't damage the record when you play it.
No harmonic distortion, no sympathetic vibration from the lacquer. Anyways, I could go on that. I love that old tech. But I mean, there's a reason I had an 8-track recorder growing up.
We're actually coming
But
to the end of our time.
We are, and we missed one of the most important stories. So I think we're going to save that for next time. Apologize to those who were waiting for that. The ISP. Well, let's just 3 minutes. ISP got in trouble because they're not shutting off users for allegedly pirating content. But the accusers aren't saying the word allegedly. They're saying that the users are guilty and they should be shut off from using their ISP. So let's dive into this deep next time. Let's lead with this. But what's your thought, Jackson? Should an ISP have the right? Should the customer have the right? Should the copyright holder who is potentially threatened, should they have the right?
That's a loaded question. You know what? I don't like that you aimed that at me. Yeah,
I want to hear your
I mean,
thoughts.
well, there's so many things going on. The whole allegedly thing, that's a huge point of concern. And then you have copyright, one private business telling another private business to shut off a consumer. There's got to be a legal process that gets in that, and in that way, in my mind. I don't know. I'm no lawyer, but it sounds like a bit of a mess, and it's all kind of arbitrary. So, not sure what to say about that.
Maybe I'll reach out to a friend of ours and see if we can get a lawyer on next week's episode. I'll try. No promises. But I think it's worth the discussion because I'm a big fan of the internet as a tool. The internet isn't a weapon. The internet should not be used to enforce. The internet should be used to enable. If somebody's doing something wrong, there's other ways of fixing that problem than turning off an internet connection. But
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Like,
come on, Mike, go for it.
My question is the ISP, are they going after them as though they are like accomplices,
They are going after them as facilitators,
as facilitators?
basically by
That's
not
that's like the
canceling.
police.
You're the getaway driver.
Yeah. My problem is that I'm, in all the times I've signed up for ISP service and I've read their terms of service and everything, that basically there's a bunch of clauses in there that say you agree to not use the services to do illegal activity. And breaking copyright law that's illegal activity. So I don't know. Like, it's
It-
really interesting why this ISP is taking the stance that they are.
Well,
ISPs
it almost
tighten
feels
to keep
like
people on.
it almost feels like the police going up to the the electric company or the water company and saying, "This person is a criminal. Turn off their water." That's
Well, not
that's
the
almost
police.
what it feels like.
Not
That's
the
what it
police.
feels like. But yeah, it's not the police though. It's
It's the
another
Karen down the
company.
street.
Right.
No,
Yeah.
it's Walmart telling you to turn off the water because you're selling the water to somebody else. Because it's now,
We're giving away.
yeah, and Walmart is losing profit because you're giving the water away now. That's kind of where what it's similar to, I'd say. But there are years of legal issues with this because Cox lost their first legal battle in 2019, and it's just been in appeals, and it's now heading to the Supreme Court. But we can get into that next time.
Cool.
We're going to the Supreme Court next time? All right. I
hope
can't
not.
wait for that.
I really hope not.
Hey, it could be fun. Hobnob with the DC elites. Let's hope that's not the case. Hopefully we're coming back to you from our various bunkers throughout the world. But join us next time. If you liked what you saw, please let us know. Play with those buttons that YouTube has because that helps us tremendously. Until next time, I'm John.
I'm Mike.
I'm Jackson.
And I'm going to go get some cheese.
Good luck with that, Artie. Have a good one.